Hello dear students, welcome to first lecture of communication. This is a new chapter, that is communication. So this is one of the important functions of the management. So in this first lecture, we are going to discuss what you mean by this communication and what are the characteristics and the importance of communication and what are the objectives of communication and types of communication, that is the formal and the informal communication. These are the important contents of the first lecture. So what is the communication, needs, importance, objectives and the types of the communication. Let us start the meaning of this communication. What is the communication? Communication is one of the important functions of the management. As a management point of view of the function, and the communication is one of the important elements of the management function. Okay. So the term, the communication, is derived from the Latin word that is a communis, which means commons, which means common, that means you are sharing the information in common. The communication means it's a sharing your idea, your expression in common. It is known as the communication. Exchange of idea and fact between two or more persons, it's known as the communication. So the term is derived from the Latin word is a communis, which means is a common, and which it's indicate that there is a sharing of your idea or the information. So look at this diagram, and here there is a person who is sharing his idea between the persons. The term is known as the communication. So communication is always the sharing of idea and fact between the two or more persons. You are communicating your idea. It is known as your communication. It is a process through two or more persons transmit or exchange thought and idea among themselves. It is a process through which two or more persons transmit or exchange thoughts and ideas among themselves. They are sharing their idea themselves or between other persons. It's known as the communication. According to Newman and Summer define the communication is an exchange of idea, fact, opinion, emotions between two or more persons or by two or more persons. This is known as the communication. The communication you are communicating, and what you communicate, your idea, your informations, your fact, your opinions are communicated between the two or more persons. It's known as the communication. And we're discussing about the important nature and characteristics of the communication. As a communication is a exchange of idea, fact between two or more persons. And we're discussing about the important nature and the characteristics of the communication. The first important nature of communication, it is at least two persons. The communications include at least two persons. One is a receiver, another one is a sender. There is a receiver and there is sender. These are two important persons relating with the communication. One person sending the information, another person receiving the information. The communication between two or more persons, the term is known as the communication. And another important characteristic of message is must. The communication is purely depends upon the message. This is a fact, idea is very important. You must be communicate certain message to one person to another person. The second important characteristics of the communication is a message. And third one is communication may be written, oral or gesture. There is a possibility for the written communication through the words or writing words, and or the words, spoken words or gestural. That means the body movements. It's a part of the communication. The communication may be written, oral or the gestural. And communication two-way process. That means at least two persons, and so also the two-way process. That means the receiver and sender are communicating each other. Therefore, the communication is a two-way process. And it's the primary purpose of motivated response. And feedback. On the basis of communication, the receiver giving the feedback to the sender. And so there is a response. The response is known as the feedback. The sender is sending a information or the message. A receiver is giving a feedback or response to the sender. So it's a motivated response. It's another important characteristic of the communication. Its primary purpose is to motivate a response. A communication may be a formal or informal. The communication, there is a possibility for the formal or the informal. The communication may be the formal or the informal. Formal means official line, informal means a personal relation. That may be formal or the informal. Another one is there is upward, downward, and sidewise, horizontal communication. Upward means is below, downward means above, and sidewise means horizontal. That means upward communication, downward communication, and horizontal communication. That is another important element of the communications: upward, downward, or the horizontal. And another one is the integral part of the process of exchange. The communication is one of the important part of exchanging idea, fact, the information. It's an integral part of the process of exchanging ideas and the fact. That's another important characteristic, exchanging of idea. Another one is interdisciplinary. The communication is interdisciplinary, can be applied to the mathematics, physics, business, and economical, educational background. Any field you can apply the theme, the communication. So it is an interdisciplinary concept, can apply the different field. Another is interpersonal relationships. Communication always creates the interrelationship between the persons. So interpersonal relationship is one of the important elements of the human relation. So the communication is also enabled to establish the interpersonal relationship. That is another important characteristic of interpersonal relations. Another circular process. The communication sometimes is a circular process. That means sender sending an information, a message, and receiver is giving a feedback. So it's like a circular process. These are the important nature and the characteristics of the communication. It's involved at least two persons. A message is must. A communication may be written, oral, or the gestural. Communication is a two-way process. It is a primary purpose of motivating a response. A communication may be formal or the informal. And there is the upward, downward, and the horizontal line of the communications. Another one is it's integral part of exchanging your information. It's interdisciplinary, interpersonal relations, and circular process. These are the nature and the characteristics of the communications. And after that, what are the objectives of communication? Why you are communicating? Communication is like an exchange of idea, fact between two or more persons. And here there is a question: why you are communicating, and what are the objectives of communications? We're discussing what are the important objectives of the communication. Listen, the first important objective is to convey the right message. The first important objective is must be communicating and conveying the right message to right persons. That's the first important objectives of the communications. The communications are always conveying the right message. And second one is coordinations. As communications are always coordinating the different activities in your organization. A management point of view, the communication always help to reduce the conflict. Proper communications always reduce the conflict and create the coordination within your organization. It's another important objective. There's the coordinations. Another development of the managerial skills. The communications always help to the manager to acquire new knowledge and skills throughout your life, through your business, through their works. That is development of the managerial skill, acquiring the knowledge through your skills. So it's a communication always help to develop the managerial skill. And there is a good industrial relations. Good industrial relation means good industrial relation with the employer and the employee. The proper communication always facilitating the good communication between you, the employer and the employee, and can be reduce a lot of the problems within your organizations. So the good industrial relations. Another one is effectiveness of the policy. The objectives, one of the important effectiveness of the policy. With help of the communication, the management can communicate the policy with the workers. And if there is any feedback, they can properly collect it from the different sources. So the policy effectiveness can be ensured with help of the communication. The effectiveness of the policies. Last one is ensure the free exchange of information. It's a theme, it's a common. You're sharing your ideas, opinions as a common. So ensure the free exchange of information is one of the important objectives of the communicate. That means communicate right person, right time for the throughout the life. So ensure the free exchange of information. These are the important objectives of communication. The first one is conveying the right message. There is a coordination, the development of the managerial skill, good industry relation, the effectiveness of policy, and ensure the free exchange of information. These are the important objectives of your the communication. Okay, and after that, what the importance and why the concept is so important. What the importance of the communication? It's always exchanging ideas between two or more persons, and we're discussing some importance regarding your communication. The first we already discussed is the basis for coordination. How to ensure the coordination? With help of the communication, you can be easily ensure the coordination. The coordination between the workers and employers, and employee and the workers can be easily ensure the coordination with help of your the communication. So this is the first importance of the communication. Is one of the important basis for the coordination. The team spirit can be created through your the communication. This is the first one is the basis for the coordination. And second one is the fluent working. That means smooth working is possible with help of the communication. Then nowadays a lot of the multinational companies are properly communicating via the idea with with their employees, and it ensure the flow of working or the fluent working. That means ensure the smooth working with help of the communication. You must be properly communicate. You can be able to reduce the troubles, and this ensures smooth working or the fluent working atmosphere in organization. So communication is always help to the fluent working. Another one is the basis for the decision making. With the help of the communication, you can take the right decision at the right times. You can identify the alternatives with help of the communication, and selecting the best course of action with help of the communication. So it is one of the important basis for the decision making. Another one is increasing the managerial efficiency. The proper communications always ensure or increasing the managerial efficiency. The manager improve their knowledge with help of the communication, and is improving the efficiency with help of the communication. It will be beneficial to the organization. So it is increase that managerial efficiency. That is another important element of the communication, or the importance of the communication. It's increasing the managerial efficiency. Another one is increase the cooperations and the organization peace. That means there is peace. Peace is a very important element of the working atmosphere. With the help of the communication, can be able to create the peace within the organization. And cooperations. The manager always try to identify the problems of the subordinate, and the mutual cooperation, mutual trust are improved with help of the proper communication. Mutual trust must be properly communicated. Will be improve the trust. The trust leads to the cooperation and leads to the organizational peace. So increase the operations and organizational peace. That's another importance of the communication. And another one is a boost the motivation, the morale of the employees. The proper communications feel that the employee feel that our managers properly communicate with them, and their understanding their needs. So it will lead to the motivating the employee for the betterment of organization. So the proper communication boosts the motivation and morale of the employees. That's another importance of the communication. That's motivating the morale of the employees. And another one is a base for action. You can communicate with employee. The communication is one of the important base for action, because you can exchange the ideas. You can easily hear the problems of the employees and getting the feedback to the different sources. On the basis of feedback, a manager can take the effective decision for the organization. So it's a base for action. It's like a base for action. Suppose whenever to take an action, you must be properly communicate. Get a lot of the idea from the communication, and can be take the right actions. It's a basis for action. The last one, provide effective leadership. The communications are always helpful to provide effective leadership. A proper leader must be properly communicated. A person have good communication skill, definitely it will be improve the leadership quality. So provide effective leadership. These are the importance of the communication. First one is the basis for coordination. It's a fluent working, the basis for the decision making, increase the managerial efficiency, and increase the cooperation and organizational peace, boost the motivation and the morale of the employee. It's a base for the action and provide effective leadership. And these are the importance of your other communication. So increase managerial efficiency, smooth working, promotion, cooperation, and these are the importance of the communication. Okay. Now after what are types of communication? Normally the communication can be classed in different area. Here we're discussing some important types of communication. So there's three types of classification, and one is according to organization structure, another one is according to direction, and third one is according to way of expression. According to organization structure, there is a formal and the informal communication. The two types of communication according to organized structure, there is a formal communication and there is an informal communication. According to direction point of view, three types of communication. Listen, this is A, B, and this is C. So listen, this is C, and there is a downward, there is a upward, and there is a horizontal communication. That's according to action. The three types of communication. There's a downward, upward, and the horizontal communication. According to expression point of view, there is oral communication and the written communication. These are the important types of communication. There is a formal, there is an informal, there is a downward, upward, horizontal, and oral, written, and these are the important types of communication. And here we are discussing the first classification according to organized structure. According to organized structure, the two types of communication, there is a formal communication and the informal communication. We are discussing what the formal communication and the informal communication. Okay, listen, the first important element is a formal communication. The formal, the term represents there is an official relationship. This sharing the official information. The formal communication means you are communicating or you are exchanging the official informations. There is a purely official format. The formal communication is a official format. There is a strict authority and responsible relationship, and there is a following the organizational hierarchy. And the rules, policy, procedures, standards, all are satisfied in your formal communication. That means you are purely formal manner and you purely exchanging the official informations. So normally the flow of information top to bottom, like a top to bottom communication. Okay, the formal communication flow, a proper pre-defined channel of communication. There is a well-structured policy, procedures, rule. So there is a clear-cut pre-defined channel for the communication from the top to bottom. Normally the formal communication is like a from top to bottom. Sometimes there is a bottom to top. So the formal communication is a purely official relationship establishing your organization. You are strictly following the official rule, policy, procedures, standards for the benefit of your organization. This types of the communication is known as the formal communication. Normally the multinational companies are following both formal and informal communication. And formal communication is essential for establishing the rules, the policies, and the procedures. I'm discussing one of the important advantages and the disadvantages regarding the formal communication. Suppose you formally communicate, and what are the advantages and the disadvantages? An advantage point of the first advantage is its increase overall efficiency. Your formal communication is increasing your overall efficiency because you strictly follow the authority, responsibility, clear-cut policies and procedures. Therefore, it increases overall efficiency in your organization and also efficiency of your employees. The first advantage is increase overall efficiency. Another one is easy communication system. Because there is no barriers, you can be easily communicate your formal structure. Because there is a well-defined channel is established in formal communication, so easy communication system. And another one is a permanent record. The formal communication is a permanent record. And nowadays the organizations are recording their formal functions through the recorded videos and other etc. That means mobile devices. It's a permanent record. The formal communication sometimes a permanent record for certain rules, policy that you are implemented within organization. That's a permanent record. That's another important advantage of the formal communication. It's always a permanent record. Another quick accomplishment of work. Suppose the Prime Minister has implementing certain order, then definitely it be implemented so fast. Because it's a quick accomplishment, because follow the formal level of communication. This is a quick accomplishment of the work. That's one of the important advantages of quick accomplishment, the quick completing your the work. Quickness is one of the important advantages. And maintain the discipline, because of well structured communication and the strictly following the authority responsibility relationship, so there is a proper disciplines. There's a force obey the rules and regulations of the organization. It's the maintenance of the discipline. Another one is ease of cooperation and coordinations. There's a proper cooperations and coordination can be ensured with help of your the formal communication. Okay, these are the important advantages of the formal communication: increase overall efficiency, easy communicate system, permanent record, quick accomplishment of work, maintenance of discipline, ease of cooperations and the coordination. Now what are the limitations? And they have some limitations. The first one, the wastage of time. Sometimes you have to wait for the top manager orders. There is a lacking, there is a wastage of time. That's one of the important drawback. There is inflexibility, because here there is always formal structure. There is no freedom to abolish certain rules. So there is always inflexibility. There is rigidity in your the formal communication. There is another drawback. There is inflexibility, a lack of initiative. Sometimes organized strict authoritarian and strict autocratic style. There is a least possibility for the initiativeness. Sometimes formal communication, there is a well structured plan, policies and procedures. And sometimes you have to face the problem of the lack of the initiativeness. That's another drawback regarding your the formal communication, that is lack of initiative. And there's authority and attitude. We already mentioned there is a manager, sometimes authoritarian style. There is a strict autocrat sometimes. Autocratic style of leadership is followed in your the formal communication. That's another drawback, that's authoritarian attitude. Next one is lack of cordiality, because the personal attachment is not in your the formal communication. This manager sometimes behave like your the formal manner. This created lack of the cordial atmosphere within the organization. Last one is a costly, because the well structured policy procedure and the medium is essential, the message is essential, so channel of communication is very essential. So it's so costly devices. These are the drawbacks regarding your the formal communication. There is a wastage of time, there is inflexibility, lack of initiativeness, authoritarian attitude, lack of cordiality and the costly device. These are the important drawbacks of the formal communications. And after that, what is the informal communication? The informal communication the quite rules of the formal communication. That means there is a personal relationship existing in the organization. So you're interacting with your co-workers like the friends and your the family members. So in the informal communication, that means it's not an official format. Informal communication is always unofficial format, and where your informations are exchanged spontaneously between two or more persons. There is an unofficial relationship. There is no official relationship. There is always unofficially and exchanging your ideas, facts spontaneously. And there is no proper system, and there is no chain of command, and you are maintaining the good relation with another person. These types of communication is known as the informal communications. It's a part of the informal organization. The informal organization are following the informal pattern or informal communication. So listen, and here there is a personal relationship or the informal relationship such as friends, peers group, family, club members, etc. are the freed from the organizational conventional rule. That means there is no conventional rule. You can be easily communicate and easily share any information with your peer groups. In the business context, informal communication is also not a grapevine. Why? There is a very important element. The informal communication is also known as a grapevine. Grapevine means it's very difficult to define the beginning and the end of the communication. Look at the diagram. Suppose suppose any problems are related to organization, and who communicate first? It is very difficult to define the beginning and end of your communication. So its name is known as the grapevine. This is a pattern shows the grapevine, because suppose it's starting with one person and ending with another person. You can't easily predict the starting and end of your communication. So it's also known as a grapevine. The grapevine is an informal communication also treated as a grapevine, because in vineyard is very difficult to find the origin. Therefore, the informal communication is known as the grapevine. So a lot of the advantages, in fact, certain limitations. So the grapevine format is also relating with the informal communication, there is a personal, unofficial relationship establishing with the organization. It's known as the informal communication. There's a purely personal or the informal relation. That's also known as the grapevine. And finally, we are discussing the advantages and the limitations of the informal communication. Like your formal communication, the informal communication has certain advantages and the disadvantages. Let us discuss the advantages and the disadvantages of the informal communication. The first advantage is easily interpret. Informal communication can be easily interpreted because there is a personal relationship, can easily interpret any information with any other person. And another is the presence grievance. The grievance, sometimes the grievance redressal cell established in an organization. There's a possibility the grievances and complaints can be arise sometime. It can be easily reduce certain problem in the informal communication. There's a presenting the grievance. An alternative system. The informal communication is compared to the formal, this is an alternative system because it can be established the informal relationship and the personal relationship. It's like a alternative system and improving the relationship. In informal communication, the members are communicate like the family members, and they treat you the co-worker as a family member. That's improve the relationships. That's another important advantage of the informal communication. That's improving the relationship. Last one is increasing the efficiency because there's a personal relationship. This personal relationship is increase the efficiency in your organization. These are the advantages of the informal communication. And finally, what are the drawbacks? And what are the drawbacks of the informal communication? And one of the dessert meaning that means some person treat the informal communication. It's a communicate. You can anything you can communicate. Some believes that anything can communicate in organization with their own needs, with their own style, and this will distort the meaning of your informal communication, and this negatively affecting the organization. There is a distort of meaning, and the spread rumor. There is a possibility of the grapevine. The grapevine means it's very difficult to find out the origin. This is spreading the rumors within an organization. That's another drawbacks regarding the informal communication. And there is a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding between the family members and simultaneously you are the organization member. So informal communication creates a lot of the misunderstanding, and the way of the communication will be interpreted some other way. So there is a chance for the misunderstanding. There is another drawback. There is a misunderstanding, and another maintain secrecy is impossible. In informal communication, there is no possibility for the secrecy. The formal communication always facilitates secrecy in the information, and the informal communication not maintain any secrecy in the communication. So this is another drawback. There is maintaining the secrecy. Last one is very difficult to control. Informal communication compared to the formal communication is very difficult to control because they are spontaneously speaking anything relating their works and the colleagues. So it's very difficult in the controlling. These are the drawbacks regarding the informal communication. Okay, let me conclude. The first we discuss what you mean by the term is the communication. What is the communication? The communication is a process of exchanging idea, fact between two or more persons. The term is known as a communication. The term is derived from the Latin word is a communis, and this means the exchange your fact between the two or more persons. What are the characteristics? The message, least persons, communication, formal, informal, interdisciplinary, circular process. These are the important characteristics of the communications. And these are objectives: convey right message, coordination, the development of skill, good industry relation, effectiveness of policy, and ensure the free exchange of information. These are the important objectives of communication. And what is important is the fluent working, the basis for coordination, the decision making, increase the cooperations, motivation, morale, the base for the action, the effective leadership. These are the importance of your communication. The types of communication, that according to organization structure, there is formal and informal. According to direction, there is upward, there is downward and horizontal communication, and according to expression, there is oral and written communication. These are different types of the communication. And the formal communication, there is an official relationship established in the organization. So formal, and there is advantage and the disadvantage of formal communication. And this informal communication, there is a personal relationship established in the organization, as also known as informal communication. And informal communication, also known as a grapevine. Grapevine means very difficult to find out the origin in case of the vineyard. Simultaneously here, very difficult to define the beginning and end of the communication. So it's known as the grapevine. And these are the drawbacks and the advantages regarding the informal communication. So communication is an exchange, idea, fact between the two or more persons. In order to achieve the objectives of organization, communication essential. So we have to practice the formal and the informal communication. That can be used the combination of the formal and the informal communication. So sometimes upward, downward, and one of the important element is the good communication definitely motivate your the employees and also reflecting your the organization results. Okay, anyway, thank you so much, and thank you for watching me.